The autism dilemma. Autism is becoming a common diagnosis in children and adults. It is a single condition diagnosis. There is only one autism, and is the name used for presenting symptoms that appear similar, while excluding other comparable presentations, often for no obvious reason. A diagnosis of autism does not have the validity of equality of diagnosis. You cannot work back from the diagnosis to enable symptoms to be understood. Autism in diagnosed form manifests in a wide array of presentations, with some characteristics being the exact opposite of others. This variability includes both hypersensitivity, increased sensitivity to sensory stimuli, and hyposensitivity, decreased sensitivity to sensory stimuli, which are often considered key markers of the condition. Given this, is considering these contrasting traits as the same diagnosis reasonable? Numerous diagnosed and undiagnosed conditions exhibit similar symptoms to autism but are not classified as such. This leads to confusion, making the diagnosis of autism seem vague, and potentially inappropriate and inadequate. Autism is currently classified as a developmental condition, but identical symptoms can also arise from non-developmental causes. This means that two individuals with the same symptoms might receive different diagnoses, while those with varying symptoms might be diagnosed with the same condition. Consequently, the diagnosis of autism can be seen as unreliable, potentially undermining research and management efforts. Is autism a lifelong condition? Is the current diagnostic method fit for purpose? Or should we view the current autism diagnosis as a misallocation of time and resources? It will become clear as we progress that the existing methods for diagnosing autism may be inadequate because 1. Diagnostic criteria. The criteria used to diagnose autism are based on observable behaviors and are subject to interpretation. This leads to inconsistent diagnoses and difficulty identifying individuals who have less obvious symptoms. 2. Late diagnosis. There is often a significant delay in the diagnosis, with many children not being diagnosed until they are several years old. Early intervention can have a positive impact on outcomes, so this delay can be a major concern. 3. Bias in assessment. There is evidence that biases can impact the diagnostic process, leading to disparities in autism diagnosis for different groups. 4. Misdiagnosis. Inappropriate diagnosis may be the rule, rather than the exception. The diagnosis of ASD, is it inherently flawed? In this series of videos, we argue that while the challenges faced by many are real and varied, they are not a spectrum of conditions, but distinct conditions requiring focused management. Currently, the diagnosis of autism is based solely on presentation, which has significant implications. 1. Limited understanding. We will delve into uncomfortable territory within diagnosis, management, and terminology, suggesting that prevailing methods are unacceptable, and that a fundamental shift in approach is imperative. We will challenge the notion of focusing on effects rather than causes, arguing that without this pivotal change, inadequacies will persist. We will investigate various potential causes of symptoms and their interconnections, proposing a novel model grounded in sensory processing. Additionally, we'll explain why current research in this field might be flawed and require comprehensive re-evaluation. We will highlight potential flaws in the diagnostic process and question the veracity of the diagnosis. Our proposal for a new model of those called autistic is radical, but unlike the current spectrum ideas, it makes sense.